They say every perfect picture hides a crooked frame. I just never thought I'd be the one hanging inside it. You ever look at your life and think, man, I've really got it together? Yeah, that was me. Logan Mercer, age 37, owner of a successful architectural firm, 2 kids I adored, and a wife, Ashley, who everyone said was the real prize. They weren't wrong. She was smart, charming, the kind of woman who could silence a room just by walking into it. And trust me, she knew it. To outsiders, we were the glossy Christmas card couple. Matching sweaters, wine nights with friends, inside jokes we finished in unison. Even my mother-in-law would whisper to her bridge club, those two were meant to be. But like I said, perfect frames. And this one, it had hairline fractures. You wouldn't spot them at first glance. Not unless you knew where to look. The signs were subtle. That was her style, refined deception. Missed calls labeled team meetings, too much perfume for casual brunches, laughter that lingered just a little too long when I mentioned her new coworker. Chase? Oh, don't be silly, Logan. He's married, with a baby on the way. That sentence aged like milk. But I didn't question it, not because I was naive, because I didn't want to be that guy. The insecure husband. The one who snoops through texts and interrogates his wife like a bad cop in a mid-budget crime drama. Besides love, it's funny. It can make silence feel like trust and lies taste like truth. Still, I couldn't shake it. That feeling. You know the one. Like there's something just outside your peripheral vision that disappears every time you turn your head. Then came the dinner invite. Let's have a serious talk, she said. I thought, finally, counseling maybe. A chance to mend what had quietly cracked. I wore my best shirt, sprayed her favorite cologne, picked up her favorite wine on the way, like an idiot. And when I walked into that candlelit restaurant, I saw her. And him. Already seated. Already smiling. You ever see a painting that's so beautiful it hurts your eyes, and then you realize it's been painted with someone else's blood? I smiled. Sat down. Shook his hand. Chase Donovan, he said with a grip just a little too firm. Ashley's told me all about you. She laughed. Tucked her hair behind her ear. That damn move I used to love. And right then, I knew. I wasn't at a dinner. I was at an unveiling. When Chase leaned in and said, "You've got 2 options, Logan," I didn't answer. Not yet. Because some stories deserve a better ending than the one they tried to write for you. There's a unique kind of silence that comes when someone tries to erase you from your own life and expects you to smile through it. We were 3 people at that table, but only 2 of us knew the script. Ashley had rehearsed this, down to the seat placement, the lighting, the timing of the wine. She wanted control, and she had it. At least, she thought she did. Chase, Ashley's colleague, leaned back like he owned the damn restaurant. He had that polished arrogance that usually came from a mix of CrossFit and too many TED Talks. His shirt was unbuttoned one too far. His jawline looked chiseled by a man with something to prove. Ashley looked at me, then back at him, like this was some twisted job interview, and I was the candidate who didn't quite make the cut. Then he said it. I'll make this simple. You've got 2 options, Logan. Leave quietly, or face me like a man. Now, see, that's the moment right there, the one that splits a man in 2. One version flips the table and lunges across it. The other stays seated, calculating. I chose option 3. I smiled. Not a big one. Just enough to let them both know I wasn't swallowing the script. Ashley didn't flinch. She sipped her wine like we were discussing renovation plans. My marriage, 11 years, was being auctioned off in front of me, and she couldn't be bothered to look ashamed. My fork tapped gently against the plate. So what is this? I asked. A transition, she said, smooth as silk. It's time we stopped pretending. I didn't want to lie anymore. Lie anymore. Not stop lying. She made it sound like a moral victory. Chase added, "Look, we didn't mean to fall in love, man. These things just happen. These things." Like he'd accidentally spilled coffee on my life and hoped I'd laugh it off. I turned to Ashley. "Did you really bring me here, to be humiliated?" She looked away for the first time. That's how I knew I hit something real. Then came the final twist of the knife. She reached into her purse and slid a manila envelope across the table. Inside, divorce papers. Dated. Signed. Prepped. A note on top in her handwriting. "We'll both be happier this way." And in that moment, I stopped being her husband. Not emotionally. I think that ended months ago. But strategically. Mentally. Quietly. Because if they thought this was the end of my story, They clearly never read the fine print. They'd mistaken my silence for surrender. But I was just pausing, watching, waiting. Because some betrayals don't break you, they refine you. When I walked out of that restaurant, I didn't look back. But I smiled to myself, not because I'd lost her. Because she thought I had nothing left to lose. The first thing I noticed when I walked into our bedroom was that the bed was made, and that told me everything I needed to know. Ashley never made the bed. Not once in 11 years. Not even when her parents came to visit. Not even after we argued. Not even when she was trying to butter me up. To her, making the bed was pointless. She'd joke it was like brushing your teeth before a funeral. But tonight, the sheets were tucked with military precision. Corners sharp. Pillows fluffed. It was a hotel bed, not a home. That was the first alarm. The second? The scent. Her perfume lingered in the air. Like always, jasmine and something sweet. The one she wore on date nights when she still wanted to impress me. But under that was something else. Cologne. Strong. Musky. The kind of scent that tries too hard to be alpha. I stood in the doorway. Still in the clothes from the dinner-turned ambush. My knuckles ached from clenching. My chest was still tight from holding in the scream I never let out. The silence in the house was deafening. No kids. We never had any. No dog. Just me, in a space that suddenly felt staged. I sat on the edge of the bed like a guest in someone else's life. That's when I saw it. A single red heel, just barely visible under the dresser. New. Price tag still stuck to the sole. She hadn't worn heels for over a year, not around me, anyway. She said they hurt her back. I stood. Walked to the closet. Nothing obviously missing. But the gaps between hangers told the story. Subtle spaces where her favorite dresses used to be. Gone. Like she'd already started moving out or in. Then I opened her vanity drawer. Her tablet was inside. Unlocked. That was her mistake. People who lie often forget the small things. They cover their tracks but leave the map on the table. I tapped the photo gallery. The first image stopped my breath like a punch to the ribs. Ashley. In a mirror. Lingerie I'd never seen. Posing in a hotel room I didn't recognize. Timestamp. Last weekend. She told me she was in Sacramento, a baby shower for her friend Lacey. She even FaceTimed me with a balloon arch behind her. Turns out, the balloons were real. Just not for a baby. The next photo? A room service tray for two. One plate half-eaten, one untouched. A man's watch beside the glasses. I stared at the screen like it owed me an apology. And then, the message thread. Ash, can't stop thinking about last night. You wore me out. Next weekend, same place. Her reply. Already booked. I need you again. I can't go a week without. I closed the tablet slowly. Not because I was broken. Because I was sure now. There's a difference between suspicion and truth. Suspicion makes you anxious. Truth makes you calm. I stood up, walked into the bathroom, and washed my face. The mirror showed a man who looked like he'd aged 5 years and 5 minutes. But there was a flicker in his eye. Something cold. Something clear. This wasn't a fight anymore. It was a calculation. A blueprint. As I turned out the light, I whispered to the darkness. You planned your exit, but you never considered mine. You don't build revenge with rage, you draft it like an architect, line by line, with precision, patience, and silence. I stopped calling it heartbreak somewhere between reading her messages and folding my favorite hoodie. See, heartbreak suggests something dramatic, shattered glass, loud screams, whiskey poured over tears. No, this was arithmetic. She had taken her heart elsewhere. Mine had turned into something colder. Not numb, just focused. I went into the office the next day, and no one suspected a thing. That's the benefit of being the guy no one thinks breaks. I smiled. I laughed at the intern's bad joke. I ran the Monday meeting like my world hadn't just been cracked open. But inside, I was laying foundation. I made a list, literally, on a yellow legal pad in my desk drawer. Secure finances. Back up everything. Gather proof. Wait, not for a confrontation. That would be a waste. I wasn't interested in throwing wine or raising my voice over late-night lies. I wanted impact, not impulse. So I began. Step 1. Finances. Ashley and I had a shared account, but I handled the investments. I always had. While she was off chasing chemistry with Chase, I moved the bulk of our liquid assets into a trust under my name. Legal. Quiet. Traceable only if you knew where to look, and she didn't. Step 2. Digital trail. I cloned her tablet. Every message, photo, and booking confirmation, backed up, time-stamped, and sorted into folders. One for the lawyer. One for me. One labeled leverage, in case she ever tried to play victim. Step 3. Paperwork. I met with my attorney under the pretense of estate planning. I slid a flash drive across the table. He didn't ask why, just nodded. You want to bury her, or just walk clean? I smiled. I want to renovate the story. Step 4. Wait. That's the hardest part, letting them feel safe. You have to let them think they've won. That you're licking your wounds in the corner while they plan trips and new lives. Ashley stopped coming home 3 nights a week. No explanations. Just long meetings and a new gym schedule that somehow involved hotels. I said nothing. She'd walk past me humming, texting him in plain sight. No password anymore. No fear. She thought I'd folded. That was her first mistake. Her second? She forgot I build things for a living, including exits. I started altering our house. Not visibly, not yet. Just shifting which rooms I used. Which drawers held what. Which locks were changed quietly on the side door. I added a camera inside the guest room closet. A voice recorder behind the hallway art. She wouldn't notice. She hadn't noticed me in months. But soon as she would. Because the plan wasn't to catch her in the act. I already had proof. The plan was to let her confess. In the place she thought she was safest. With me. She thought I was rebuilding trust. What I was really doing was drawing her into the blueprint of her own collapse. The thing about liars is they love the sound of their own confessions, as long as they think you're too broken to use them. Ashley started spending more time at home again. Probably guilt. Maybe fatigue. Or maybe Chase was busy playing stepdad to his own mess. Whatever the reason, she was back, humming in the kitchen, folding laundry she never used to touch, even making my coffee. Sweet, right? It was poison in a porcelain cup. I miss us, she said one night, sliding next to me on the couch like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't handed me divorce papers over steak tartare and smirking betrayal. I sipped the coffee. Black. Just the way she forgot I liked it. You've been quiet lately, she said. It's kind of nice. I nodded. Quiet's good for thinking. What have you been thinking about? She asked, eyes darting like she already knew. I smiled. Renovations. She blinked. To the house. Yeah, I said. It doesn't feel like home anymore. She laughed nervously, tucking her legs under her. Well, maybe we can fix that. That night, I suggested we start having talks. A way to reconnect, just 20 minutes a night. She was surprised. Flattered. Gave me a kiss on the cheek like a woman who thought the game was over. I led her into the guest room. A room I'd staged carefully. Soft lighting. A decanter of wine. 2 glasses, and a low hum of classical music playing from the corner speaker. Warm. Inviting. Safe. That's what you want for a confession room. Safety. The camera behind the closet slats blinked once. Recording. You want to talk in here? She asked. I've always liked this room. Quiet. We sat. Poured wine. I asked the right questions. How did we drift so far? Do you ever regret anything? What changed between us? Ashley, bless her rehearsed heart, spoke in soft tones, like a therapist's favorite patient. It wasn't just Chase, she whispered. It was the idea of him, of being wanted again. I nodded. I didn't mean to hurt you, she added. But I felt invisible, Logan. She paused, searching my face for pity. She didn't find it. And now? I asked. She smiled. Now I just want peace. She leaned in, kissed me lightly, and whispered, Thank you for not hating me. I kissed her back. Not because I forgave her, because it made the footage more convincing. She left the room humming again. I stayed behind. Stopped the recording. Clipped the timestamp. 17 minutes and 29 seconds. Saved the file. Confession_1_final.mp4. I uploaded it to 3 cloud backups and stored a copy on a USB labeled Client Survey, Plumbing. After all, she wasn't the only one preparing an exit. She had Chase. I had evidence. And soon, I'd have the last word. She thought the past was buried, but I was still drawing blueprints. And her signature was now part of the design. Before you leave a life, you don't slam the door. You sand the hinges until it closes without a sound. The beauty of disappearing isn't in the act itself. It's in how unnoticed you become beforehand. Ashley didn't see it, but I'd already started fading from the narrative. I stopped initiating conversations. I answered questions with one-word replies. I forgot small things, laundry, light bulbs, dinner reservations. She filled in the silence, as people do. And that was the goal. If you want someone to think they're winning, give them a mirror and let them admire their reflection while the floor vanishes beneath them. I spent more time at the office, late hours, weekend deadlines, fake client dinners. I started shifting my mail to a P.O. box. Bit by bit, I moved valuables from our home into a rented storage unit an hour away. Passports, personal files, the watch my father left me. She never noticed. Or maybe she didn't care. She had other distractions. I knew from her messages that Chase had started pulling away. Turns out, her shiny new future came with scratches in the paint. He didn't want the mess, the mortgage, the public divorce, the emotional fallout. Ashley had bet big on a man who loved stolen moments, but not consequences. She tried to pull me back in one night. Cooked dinner, lit candles, even wore the dress from our anniversary in Florence. "You remember this?" she asked, twirling. I smiled. Of course. She sat close, rested her head on my shoulder. "Maybe we rushed everything," she whispered. "Maybe we should talk about slowing things down." I nodded slowly. "We should." She mistook it for agreement. Affection. Redemption. But I was already gone. That night, after she fell asleep with a wine glass half full and a plan half formed, I slid out of bed and opened my hidden laptop. VPN on. Burner email account. Subject line, pending disclosure, legal urgency. I sent the confession video to my lawyer with the following instructions. Release only if she can test the terms. Otherwise, let her walk. But let her walk small. The next morning, I stood outside the garage with my coffee, staring at the car she never used, the one I'd loaded with packed boxes over the last week. One final bag left. The essentials. I was ready. The house wasn't mine anymore. The marriage hadn't been for months. All that was left was the illusion. And illusions don't make good homes. Ashley came downstairs in her robe, scrolling her phone like a teenager who thought she could juggle deception and brunch plans. "You're up early," she mumbled. "Lots to do." I replied, sipping calmly. She didn't ask what. She didn't notice the last bag disappear into the trunk. That afternoon, I left. No note. No text. Just a forwarded copy of the video to her inbox with the subject line. File this under closure. You don't always burn the bridge. Sometimes you just build a better one and leave them stranded on the wrong side. Some people crave closure. Others need silence so loud it echoes through every room they thought they owned. Ashley called me 47 times in 2 days. Not because she missed me, but because she'd finally noticed I was gone. Not just physically, but surgically. Clean lines. No trail. Like I'd been edited out of the script mid-season. The house was still there. Mortgage paid. Utilities on. But I wasn't. The keycard to my office? Disabled. The ring on my finger? Pawned. Her name on my lips? Deleted. She left voicemails, each one messier than the last. "Logan, I just want to talk. Please, don't do this. This is childish." "Okay, now you're scaring me." The shift. Guilt. Anger. Fear. She cycled through every emotion but remorse. That's how I knew it was working. She even drove to my office. The front desk told her I'd taken a leave of absence. Indefinite. No return date. "Where is he?" she demanded. They shrugged. "We just got a memo. Said he was pursuing something personal." Which I was. My dignity. She checked with Chase. Bad idea. He hadn't responded to her last 5 texts. Apparently, the fantasy lost its shine the moment I refused to beg. They always expect you to beg. But I didn't give her screams. I gave her absence. The kind that stains. She texted my sister. She texted my friends. She even messaged my high school buddy on Facebook, the one I hadn't spoken to in a decade, just to ask if I was alive. Funny how quick they panic when they lose control of your reaction. I stayed gone. Not in a motel. Not hiding. I was living in a small cabin by the coast. Quiet. Clean. My own. Paid for in full. The bed was mine. The air was mine. The silence. A symphony. And every day I didn't answer her calls, I got stronger. She, on the other hand, unraveled. The messages shifted tone. Chase was a mistake. I never should have let us drift. You were the only one who knew me. Oh, I knew her. Better than she ever wanted. But I wasn't coming back. This wasn't a timeout. This was a recalibration. I had started designing a new life, not with rage. With clarity. That's the thing about rebuilding. It doesn't require a wrecking ball. Just the will to walk away while the other person's still lighting the matches. She wanted a reaction. I gave her a void. The kind she could never fill, even with someone else's arms. People think consequences arrive like thunder, But the worst ones come as whispers, long after the storm has passed. Ashley didn't know how to live with silence. Not mine, anyway. She tried to fill it with noise, calls, emails, messages wrapped in guilt and nostalgia. I ignored them all. Not out of spite. Out of precision. The more she screamed into the void, the clearer it became who she was screaming for. Not chase. Not closure. Control. But that leash had snapped. I watched from a distance, of course. The digital paper trail she never thought to close made it easy. She was unraveling. Publicly. Work started asking questions. Why had she been named in a private HR complaint? Chase had transferred departments. Quietly. Voluntarily. The other women at her job, the ones who once called her powerful, started whispering something else. Manipulative. I didn't lift a finger. Didn't have to. Truth, when timed correctly, walks in like a gentleman and leaves like a king. One night, she sent me a voice memo. Just breathing at first. Then, a tearful whisper. I made a mistake. Logan. Please don't hate me forever. I listened. Then deleted it. See, it wasn't hate she needed to fear. It was irrelevance. Her punishment wasn't exile. It was existence without impact. She built her life on echoes. But mine had stopped bouncing back. Starting over doesn't begin with forgiveness. It begins with a mirror, and the man finally recognizing the stranger staring back. 6 months had passed. I'd stopped counting the days since I walked away from that dinner table and the decade it represented. The cabin wasn't a hideout anymore. It was home, and I had built it the way I built everything in my life. Measured. Intentional. Silent. My lawyer called me one morning. Said Ashley had finally signed the divorce papers after months of dragging her heels, waiting for an apology that would never come. She still thinks she can appeal to you emotionally, he said. She's not used to you being untouchable. Let her learn, I replied. That afternoon, I held a private gathering by the water. Small, unannounced. Just me, a few friends, and a folded piece of paper I'd kept in my pocket. Not vows. Not love letters. The confession transcript, her words from the video. I read it once more, quietly, then fed it into a small fire pit beside the shore. Ash scattered. Smoke rose. That was my ceremony. My moment. No tuxedos. No tears. Just a man reclaiming his own narrative. Ashley wasn't invited. Because it wasn't about her anymore. She was a shadow, and I don't mourn silhouettes. I didn't bury the past. I burned it. And watched the smoke drift toward the life I'd never returned to. Revenge doesn't need fists or fire. Sometimes, it just needs a crowd and a carefully timed silence. The final act wasn't dramatic. It was elegant. The way Ashley would have liked it, if she'd seen it coming. I was hosting a fundraiser. Not for charity, for legacy. My architectural firm had grown since I left her. Rebranded. Respected. And we'd started a program to fund small-town rebuilds across the state. The launch gala? Black tie. Media invited. Donors seated beneath warm lights and catered praise. I stood at the podium, delivering the speech. And this next project is deeply personal, I said. It represents how we can take what's broken and rebuild something stronger. I unveiled the model, a restoration of the town square from the place I grew up. Right next to it, a tribute, a dedication plaque featuring the names of founding donors and supporters. Chase Donovan's name was listed, not under donors, under special thanks for reminding me who I'm not. The crowd chuckled. A handful of eyes turned toward Ashley, seated near the back, awkwardly overdressed and underinvited, having pulled strings to get in. I didn't look at her. I didn't need to. I had turned her into a footnote in my success story, a cautionary tale gilded in polite applause. She left early, alone, and that was the revenge. Not her ruin, not her suffering, just her watching me rise. And knowing she no longer had a seat at the table. She broke me in private. I erased her in public. And that is what elegance looks like in the aftermath of betrayal.